Hello again and welcome back to another video. And first of all, the title of this video is really important. So today we're looking at what kind of things you can do to work alongside or with a teaching assistant in your classroom really effectively. And I think importantly there, I've said with, because it is a partnership, it's a team game, it's something you're going to be doing alongside someone else. Now, technically in the kind of hierarchy of management of a school, you will be obviously telling your TA what you'd like them to do and ask them to do things, and it can sometimes appear like you're their boss and that kind of thing. But from all the time I've worked in a primary school, I think it's been very clear to me that the best times when you're working alongside a TA is when you are working alongside them and you can work together and you can each have ideas about what's best to do, and you can decide on based on things that obviously you have your own ideas, your TA will have your own ideas, and you can work together to decide on what's the best thing for the class. And when teaching assistants can kind of have their own independence to do the bits that they know they need to do, and it's not something that's very structured and orderly and this that, it's something that kind of flows and works between the both of you. And so yeah, I just wanted to highlight at the start of this video about how this isn't about managing someone, it's not about kind of being someone's boss, it's about working together, working alongside each other and doing it's about teamwork really to get the best out of the children and the best out of each other. So hopefully this will come across like that, and you'll understand what I'm talking about as I go through the different things I'm going to mention in this video about how to work together in that way. But yeah, that's something I've always found as a teacher. When you're working alongside a teaching assistant who is strong and independent, has their own ideas and their own things that they want to do, that is where you get the best out of each other and you get the best out of the children when you're working alongside someone like that. So yeah, let's get into it. And the first thing you need to do is you need to develop that really good working relationship. And by that, I mean know them by more than just their teacher name. So whether it is Miss Ingalls that you work alongside, I'm just making up a random name, whoever it is you're working alongside in your primary school classroom, you need to know them by more than their teacher name and who they are as a teacher. Now, as if you started a new school and you only just got to know them, this will something that will take time. It might take a year, it might take 2 years, it might take a long time before you've got that really good solid relationship with them. But if you don't have that and you only know them by who they are in the classroom, you don't really have that opportunity to be working close alongside each other, because lots of it is, through conversations outside of school or about things that go off outside of school, you start to get to know who they are and how they tick and the things that motivate them. And they know the same thing about you. When you're in the classroom together and one of you might be having a down day or one of you might not be feeling quite right, the other person can recognise that and can work with them to help them through it. And then obviously by doing that, you're getting the best out of the children together and not just one of you doing good while the other one's not feeling up. So that good working relationship is absolutely key. It's also important when you have different ideas, because if you're, questioning something or you're not quite sure about something, you've got to be able to talk to them about that and say, look, this isn't quite working, and have that open, honest relationship by, questioning why that's going off, and maybe they'll answer you and you'll understand why it is happening and that you'll change your mind, or maybe they'll change their minds. And just by able to have that relationship where you can talk to each other openly and honestly about that is really important, rather than just not understanding something and kind of lead to not getting along with someone or not necessarily wanting to work with them in class. So yeah, just being completely open, completely honest, and develop that really good close relationship as quickly as possible, because it will make the best for both of you in the classroom, and by being the best for both of you, it'll be the best for the children as well. The next point is the one that I think is the most important point, and this is something that I will always absolutely stand by, and I do this in class where you have to think of the people in the classroom with the children as teachers. They're there to improve the children's knowledge, they're there to improve their learning, they're there to help them be better pupils. They are in effect doing the same thing as you are while the class is going on from 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock. They're in the classroom developing the children the same way you are, and so think of them like that. In school, whenever the children talk to me about people that work with them, I describe everybody that works with them in the classroom as a teacher, because to me that's what they are. Anyone that's in that classroom that is working with any child, they're there teaching them. Now, they might not have the role of teacher on their contracts, but to me, I think they are doing the job where they are working with the children, they're developing their knowledge, they're helping them learn. That to me is a teacher, no matter what your contract says, no matter what your job role is. It just is something that it is. So in class, I'll always treat them as teachers. I'll describe them to the children as teachers. When they ask who that is or what they're doing, they're teaching. And I think that's really important as well when you are working with them. So it might be your TA might be working with a group, it might be working with you in the classroom, they might be kind of going around giving feedback to the children, whatever it is. That is where you are doing the same thing. You're working together. Now, it might be that they are watching the class and making sure they're getting on with their work, where you work with a group to give that quality first teaching. It might be that the two of you are going around marking different areas of children's books and checking their work, checking their presentation, obviously the quality of their work, making sure there's no misconceptions going on. Whatever it is, you should be doing the same thing together, because we said just now, expecting them to be like teachers in the classroom, they are teaching the children, and so it's having that same expectation of doing the same thing. If I thought that the people I was working with wasn't going to deliver the same quality of teaching to the children as me, then that's something I'd have to talk to them about and show them, if they weren't quite sure how to do something, then I'd be helping them as well as helping the children. And that's something you can do, before school, after school, whenever it is. But again, that's about having that close relationship and talking to them and helping them through that. Because not everyone is as confident as a teacher is. I think by teaching and standing up in front of a class of children every single day, you naturally kind of develop this confidence where you do believe in yourself and you do believe in your abilities. And I think I'm kind of quite a confident person myself. To be able to stand up in front of class, it's always something I'm quite proud of that I can do. But you have to remember, not everyone can do that, and so it's about working together. And if you have those expectations of someone, helping them to achieve that, not just expecting it from day one that they can just do the same thing you can, but working together and getting to that point eventually. So when you are in the classroom, one of the things that teaching assistants are often used for is to do interventions, and that's something that are done at my school, but they're generally done quickly in the afternoons. They're not something that's done during the morning lessons, and that's because it's so important that children are accessing, especially that core curriculum, so your reading, your writing, your math, the kind of lessons that are done in the morning. It's so important for all children to be accessing those lessons as much as possible. And that's where you might think, well, one sec, if you're just teaching the whole class the same thing, what are the teaching assistants going to be doing during that time? And that's where we kind of do something where we talk about team teaching, and that's where the teaching assistants in my classroom will always be getting involved in the lesson, and they'll be offering ideas, they'll be helping out, they'll be going around making sure children are working, that kind of thing, where they're in the classroom making sure that the children are always getting on with the work and engaged with the lesson. And that can be so helpful when you've got a class of 30 children in front of you. Trying to keep them all on task, all engaged all the time on your own is quite a difficult thing to do. So when you have one or two people other than you in the classroom, and all they have to do is kind of wander around, checking on books, asking people what they're doing, asking what that means, a pen in their hand, marking the work as they go, that kind of thing can just keep children so engaged. And it's not a negative thing. It's not they're stood there telling children off for doing the work. They're there focusing, especially on the children that are doing the work, saying, yes, well done, we'll just mark that, or offering ideas to me to show children what it is to be a good learner, to be engaged in the lesson. Because when they see someone being engaged, the children want to do that too. I might praise a child, I might praise a teaching assistant that's offered a really good idea, and be like, yes, well done, that's brilliant, let's get that on the board, get that up on the wall, where they're offering ideas and they're offering suggestions just as much as the kids are, just as much as I am. It's that kind of teamwork, that team front, where you're all working together to do the best for the children. And again, it works really well when you've got teaching assistants that are strong and independent people. And it does mean they need to have a lot of confidence in themselves, and this could be something you can help. So before each lesson, you could talk about what you're doing if they're not quite sure on what the lesson is, and give them some ideas of what kind of things to shout out and what kind of things to suggest beforehand, what the answers might be, what the vocab you might be wanting to look at that day is. So there's always options to do when people aren't quite so confident, and over time it's something that they will build up the same way you did. When I look back at my teaching style when I first became a teacher, it was almost 4 years ago now, it's completely different to what it is now, and I like to think I've changed a lot for the better, and I've become a lot more confident, a lot more focused on what's needed and what's important in the classroom compared to what I was at the start. And it's just something that does develop over time. But if you can get that bond where there's 2 or 3 of you in the classroom, you're all working together, all teaching together, there's just no better way of teaching in my view. There's no better way of being able to be in front of a class and you've got 3 different adults all there showing those good behaviours, those good role model kind of things, that good engagement in the lesson, and the children just want to be that. They want to be like you in effect. And so you're showing them what it is to be a good learner, and they will be taking that on board and they will be copying it. It's not a lesson to teach. You're not there saying you must do what Miss is doing. They'll just kind of take it on and do it just by watching you guys. So yeah, it's really good if you can get to that point and kind of have everything engaged and rolling and going together. And I think it's the best way to work in a classroom. Now the final thing in this video that again could be classed as one of the most important, and I've done a video on this a bit before which I'll try and remember to link up there somewhere, and it's talking about our live feedback and how a teaching assistant can be working on this live feedback in the classroom during the whole lesson. So during a lesson you've got loads and loads of different things that you'll be doing. You'll be doing a starter activity, you'll be doing the main teaching, you'll be practicing it, you'll be stopping and talking about what the children are doing, practicing it again, you might be doing some reasoning at the end, you might be applying your work, marking the work. There's all sorts of things children will be doing throughout the lesson. They're going to be required to do different things for each step, and throughout the lesson the children need feedback on what they're doing. There's very little point being sat with the child in class doing the work and not giving them any feedback on how they're doing until the next day. And unfortunately in a lot of schools that is kind of what happens. If I think back to when I was at school, that is what happened to me, where I did work during a lesson and it didn't matter if I got it all right or all wrong. I didn't get any feedback on that work until the next day, and then by that point, well, we've moved on to a new lesson, so there's no time to go back to it. The best thing to do in class, especially when you're working with other people in your classroom, is to give that feedback straight away. And when you've got a teaching assistant working with you, that's something they can do while while you're teaching. So right at the start, you might do some quick bits on whiteboards. Well, if you're stood at the front doing some work on the whiteboard and the children are kind of doing bits that you're doing, well, the teaching is going to be going around spotting children that haven't quite got it or haven't quite understood and working with them straight away, that instant live feedback to fix any misconceptions or fix any misunderstandings. Then when the children get started, straight away they've got an idea in their heads of the children that they're going to go focus on first, because they've seen that they've not quite understood it, so they need that little bit of extra input. So then while you're then walking around the classroom checking on everyone's work and marking how they're getting on, the ones that have understood, the teaching assistant can be grabbing those few that haven't quite understood and working with them quickly for maybe an extra 5 minutes just to show them what to do and how to do it. And then again, you can swap over. So once they've had a go, the teaching assistant could then be walking around checking the rest of the kids' work while you're then saying, okay, now you guys are getting on, let's see how you've got it. And if some other children that might have slipped through the net or have started but got onto the harder questions and then need a bit of help there, that's where you can step in again. And again, it's just that team teaching. It's that flipping back and forth, giving that instant live feedback. There's no point saying to a child, brilliant, you've got all the questions right, I'll tick them off tonight and I'll give them back to you in the morning. And that's just delayed, it's too slow. And same thing for if a child's not getting it right. If they spend an hour doing maths questions and they work through the whole lesson, worked really, really hard, think they've got it, think they've understood it, and they've missed one vital step in every question. And so the next day they get the book back and every question is marked wrong. And it makes you feel so bad when you've put all that hard work in. And it might be that they've only missed one tiny thing out. They might have missed a decimal point in every question. But that tiny little thing means the whole page of questions is wrong. Whereas if you've been wandering around checking the book as they go, you've looked over the shoulder after 2 questions, you've gone, you're missing a decimal point in those answers. Remember, you've got decimal point lined up. If you're doing addition, say decimal points lined up, you need a decimal point in your answer too. If you spot that after 2 questions, then they can fix those 2 questions and the rest of the page will be right. And that's that live feedback that offers that straight away. That's an impact to that bit of feedback you've given straight away. So it's really, really important that between you and your teaching assistant, you're going around offering that live feedback, getting through the entire class, every lesson if possible, because then everyone gets that impact on their work and they can improve and move forward.